Hey everybody, this is Chris Thompson and welcome to session number 37 of Brain Software with Dr. Mike Mandel. He's sick of airports, he loves the brachial stun, and has anatomically perfect feet. He is the hypnotic storm rider, Dr. Mike Mandel.
Yes, Christopher, here I am in Toronto, Canada, the very epicenter of global hypnosis where we teach. We find the rest of the hypnotic world sadly wanting, and we will not end our quest riding the storm of hypnotic confusion. We are the riders of the hypnotic storm, not ending our work until the last script has been burned and the last script reader is hung from the bridge by his ankles.
Oh, so we are just so this is hilarious, but we're recording this 1 week after the launch of the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy.
Yes.
And we did a live webinar, and I'm assuming a lot of you listening were probably on that webinar if you're listening to this around the same time, mid-June 2013. And you introduced us on the webinar with the same joke.
It's the riders of the storm.
Which makes no sense whatsoever. So, which is part of the humor, right? So we've been deconstructing Mike's humor a little bit. Well, Mike and I have.
I don't want you to deconstruct it because then it
Then
disappears.
it won't be funny anymore.
It won't be funny.
But one of the things is just saying something with such intention and such congruence.
Even though it's content-free, even though it's context-free, there's no point to it. Yeah.
It means nothing, just like manufacturing the word dursative.
Or glanative.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I'm really glad you said I like the brachial stun because I do. It's one of my favorite attacks. I love to slip someone's inside punch, smack them on the lateral surface of their neck, right at the carotid sinus and the ventral ramus. We're talking T1 to T3, so we have glossopharyngeal, hyperglossal nerve, maybe a bit of vagus nerve involvement as well. And this causes an immense shock to the person's circulatory system. The carotid sinus signals the brain that the blood pressure has spiked, whereupon the brain stops the heart. And the person falls at your feet and is unconscious for about 8 to 30 seconds, and it is awesome!
So you have both ends of the spectrum here, folks. You have hypnosis and you have jiu-jitsu.
Hypnosis as a martial art. And yes, I do have anatomically perfect feet. Every girl I ever went out with went, "Oh, look at your nice feet." Yes, the structure of my feet is flawless. I don't have this second toe like a werewolf that's way too long, and I know some of my listeners do, so avoid the silver bullets and you'll be all right. But my feet are flawlessly perfect. I have nice arches. It makes up for the fact that I've got this enormous nose.
Now, flawlessly perfect, we should call the police of redundancy police.
Absolutely, we should.
All right.
Carry on. What do we got today, Chris?
Oh, let's talk about... First thing I want to do. So... This last week, we were out at the pub at Jiu-Jitsu, and we had told a story on the last podcast. In fact, it was a reframing situation that I had delivered.
Yes, and you had told the story, I think, Chris. Don't
Yeah,
say we when I mean you.
Yeah, I'll take the blame / responsibility for this one. But I had essentially listened to a friend of mine say, this work situation is unbearable, yada, yada, yada. And my reframe was something to the effect of, and how are you going to feel next year when we have this exact same conversation again? And she quit her job.
And so did hundreds of listeners and are now destitute and in the street because of Chris.
Yeah, now Mike had made the comment on that podcast that she had the resources to do so, to quit. And he didn't mean emotional I guess you did.
I didn't mean become a layabout and just everybody run out and quit a job.
What we meant is that in her particular case, she had the financial resources to not be working for the next 3 or 4 months, and it wasn't going to bankrupt her. So we wanted to make sure people don't misunderstand the message there. Enough said there.
Yes, you weren't just arbitrarily telling her to quit her job.
Absolutely not.
Something she hated and she had the resources. Okay, moving on.
But that said, I got an email last night from a guy who clearly is having a big disagreement with his boss.
Which obviously came out because of your story you told.
Maybe, yes.
He's looking to you now. He's looking to you for vocational advice.
Well, and the thing is, you're not just going to go and quit your job if you have no other plan. But if you're unhappy in whatever it be, it doesn't have to be a job. But if you're unhappy in some aspect of your life, just start thinking about how you're going to change the direction of your life rather than thinking, how am I going to get back at this person or whatever. Reframe the argument and don't start worrying about how you're going to get revenge here. Just how am I going to move forward in life that will serve me for the long term?
Yeah, revenge is never an option, unless, of course, it's in the realm of hilarious practical jokes.
Oh, absolutely, and thousandfold retaliation,
Right.
which is one of the favorite lines that I've learned from you. All right, let's talk about the webinar that we did on Friday. The live broadcast you and I did on Friday. We've been messing around with these Google Hangouts, the live on-air Google Hangouts,
Yeah.
which are kind of fun ways of producing interesting content. But I had on Friday morning, I believe it was Friday morning, read about Tesla Motors, the car company, and the brilliant double bind that I noticed the CEO Elon Musk deliver in his presentation. So there's a YouTube video on this of Mike and I talking about it, but let's recap it quickly. So electric car company, people are always concerned about things like how far can I go, how long will it take me to recharge, and long story short, they unveiled this really cool way of swapping out the battery on the car, which is like over 1,000 pounds, and they swap it out in 90 seconds, and they're going to do it at these supercharging stations. And so people can have the choice, as the CEO put it, of
paying for the new battery to be swapped, or
getting a
free
supercharge.
supercharger takes 20 minutes.
Yeah, and so he delivered this beautiful double bind. He said, so effectively, when you pull into a Tesla superstation or supercharging station, and that's his presupposition, when you pull into the station, which assumes you've bought the car, your choice will be, do you prefer faster or free? Now, what a beautiful double bind.
Wonderful double bind, because either one means you'll have a Tesla.
Yes, and so we just wanted to point out to everybody
We
that
both went out and bought them.
Yeah, here we are seeing, as Mike said on the live broadcast we did, the actual use of hypnotic language in the business community.
And in a huge aspect of the business community. I mean, this is a huge company.
Yeah, it's a very, very big, I think it's like $12 billion market cap company, and this guy's very well respected CEO.
Yeah, he did a great job with that talk, too.
So super interesting. Now,
to us, at least.
We very quickly skipped over, or we talked about the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy launch. I do want to just say this. So as I've hit the record button on this podcast, it is June 25th, 2013. It's
6 months to Christmas.
It's 1 week. Yeah, it is 6 months. Wow. It's 1 week after we opened the doors, and we said we were going to close the doors to the online training, which we have done. And so if you go there now, MikeMandelHypnosis.com/academy, you're going to be directed to a sign-up page just to get a notification email when we open the doors again.
And we've not done this as some sort of ploy. The reason we've shut the doors, we said we were going to in advance. We wanted to get our rush of initial students in, and then determine how many we can handle, because Chris and I believe in excellent customer service. We want to make sure you're getting follow-up from us, your questions are being answered, and we don't want to be swamped with more people than we can deliver to.
Absolutely. So by the time you're listening to this, by the time I publish it, chances are we'll have opened the doors again if everything's gone smoothly, which I fully expect it will. But if you run into a situation where you visit MikeMandelHypnosis.com/academy and it says that the doors are closed, sign up for the notification list. When we reopen it, you'll get a notification email and you can sign up. People are loving the content. I want to shout out to David, because he gave I won't read the last name or anything.
Oh yeah,
but
fabulous.
Our friend
fabulous email.
David in California. So this is a guy who drove to the course from San Francisco. Super guy. And so after the course was over, he loved the training, and he said, I want to start working as a hypnotherapist, but obviously to do hypnotherapy, you need to have certain credentials. You need to be qualified under the state law as a hypnotherapist to be able to call yourself that, rather than saying consulting hypnotist or something like that.
Right.
And I can understand some people want to have the actual title, and Mike does not give you a title that says you're a hypnotherapist.
No, I'm an educator. I teach you how to do great work.
It's usually a regulated term in most areas of the world. So anyway, he wanted to get this certification, decide that he was going to go and take some training at another school, which would give it to him.
Would be 120 hours.
A long, long course. And so he just emailed us last week, and he said something to the effect of, I went to the first class, and it was a 2-hour-long class or whatever it was, and that the instructor just used so much filler language and just seemed so boring that he just resigned from the class right then and there.
He said he couldn't face it.
He said, I'm just going to go and start using what I've already learned. I have not been able to find any training that matches the quality of the training that I got from Mike in Toronto.
That's great. That's very kind of you, David. We do our best to deliver the goods.
So, commercial over. Let's talk about firemen in France using hypnosis.
Now, this is interesting, Chris. Anybody who's followed this in the news, we tend to keep up on all this stuff. And firemen in France are using what's called emergency hypnosis. This is nothing new to me. I read the article. I saw they're doing essentially what I've been doing for 15 years.
Yes.
I started teaching emergency hypnosis I taught it to paramedics out in Saskatchewan, taught it to Ontario Provincial Police, and I taught it to New York State Troopers, showing them that when someone is under horrendous stress of an accident, a fire, whatever, terrible loss, they're in a really, really shocked out state, and their critical faculty is wide open for suggestion. So make sure it's good suggestion. I applaud what they're doing in France.
Absolutely.
I read the article, and they're doing a really good job of it. They're fixating the person's attention, saying, look at me directly in the eyes. Look at me directly in the eyes and breathe, and just begin to calm down and feel good. And they put the positive suggestions in. Even though these things always, get reworked in articles, it emphasized they were getting fixation of attention. They were grabbing people when they were in shock, and not physically grabbing them, but getting their attention when they're in shock, when they're under stress, and then feeding in slower, deeper breathing and positive suggestions.
I would have assumed that, or I do assume that this was taught in French, and I thought that the articles, the English version articles, of course, that we read, were so well written and so well explained. And what really, and you guys should, listening, or guys and gals, Google firemen in France using hypnosis, and around the June 2013 timeframe, you'll find the same articles. It was so well explained that this isn't classic so-called, I'm going to use the air quotes around it, hypnosis.
But yeah, they were doing that really well, Chris. I completely agree. It's the whole idea that when you've had a car accident or there's a fire at your house or something, you've got this massive PGO spike. The reorientation reflex is fired. You're in shock, and you're looking for resolution and stability and clarity, and that's what they are feeding back. I gave the example in my course of an Ontario Provincial Police female constable north of Toronto, first officer on the scene of an accident. I believe one person was killed. Another person had a broken leg, leaking blood from the femoral artery. She put her thumb in the artery, stopped the bleeding. He looks down, sees his broken leg, goes in a shot, and he says, I'm going to lose my leg. They're going to amputate. I'm going to lose my leg. And she looks at him and says, remain calm. And he went, okay. And calmed right down. She was able to get the positive suggestion in instead of don't panic, which of course is nightmarish, caused them to elicit a panic state. But beyond that, Chris, one of the things I taught is, let's say the person has an arm broken at the elbow that's bent right backwards from, a fall off a building or something.
Yep.
The way I would teach them to use this is we fixate their attention and we say, first thing we tell them is reassurance, even if they're at death's door. We say, oh, my brother had this even worse and he's fine now. So we set that foundation. And then I say, I'm going to examine you, or we get the paramedic to say, we're going to examine you now. Tell me, does this hurt or is it okay? And they start far, far away from the injured limb, touch the right hand and say, how's this? That's okay. How's your wrist here? That's okay. What about your forearm here? That's okay. They never get to the broken limb and just keep reinforcing, that's okay, that's okay, that's okay. And it calms the person right down.
Yeah, Mike, in the Dominican Republic just this past March, I had a similar situation where I had a chance to use some emergency hypnosis, and it was just a grandmother who had fallen. She was in the lobby of the hotel. She was distracted because there was all kinds of entertainment going on around her.
I remember this, yeah.
I think I told you about the story. And so she stepped out of the lobby towards the steps, not realizing there was a step down, lost her balance, fell. Long story short, she broke her wrist. It was quite obvious. I was probably the 10th person on the scene. The first 9 were just kind of standing around wondering what to do. I have lifeguard training from my background, so I immediately just said to her, what's your name? Got her to calm down, used a yes set and stuff to get her to talk to me. And immediately just sent someone off to go get her daughter, who was down at the beach, an adult daughter of hers, because it was quite obvious she'd broken her wrist. She needed medical attention. So while we were waiting for the daughter to get back from the beach and take her mother, this grandmother, to a hospital, I had the chance to speak in a hypnotic voice to her. I just noticed that she was very uncomfortable, very nervous, very embarrassed, in pain, and I just started pacing her experience, telling her that I knew that she was feeling uncomfortable right now and that she was feeling a bit embarrassed about how she'd fallen, and that it would be all better, and that her daughter would be here soon and that she would start to feel better. And when your daughter gets here and we get you taken care of, we're going to get some ice. The ice is going to help your arm start to feel better. And your breathing will slow down and you'll be able to just calmly breathe, and you can tell me all about what happened before this happened.
And were you calibrating the shifts happening with her? Is this happening?
Her breathing changed within about 15 to 20 seconds of me starting to talk to her. And it was all very quick, very simple. I just needed to change her emotional state. I needed to fixate her attention on my voice and then give her something else to do other than panic.
Wonderful. You're distracting her from the problem, fixating her attention because you're taking advantage of the fact that her critical faculty is extremely permeable because of the stress she's under, and she's looking for resolution. Excellent work.
I'm a big fan of just dropping a lot of embedded commands, telling people that they can start to feel better when this kind of stuff happens.
Nice. Yep. Excellent. What else we got here?
Oh, let's look at our agenda again. I know there's more on here. So, I want to talk about progressive muscle relaxation. I want to go into a little bit of depth on this because here's the backstory for anyone listening. Mike and I have had many podcasts here where Mike will say something like, anything other than that horrible progressive relaxation induction. And so people will sometimes email in and say something like, well, don't you use a progressive muscle relaxation induction on your stress relief CD or your peak performance CD or whatever? And it's not the same thing. And we've explained this. So maybe just cover that again, and then let's go into a bit more depth on what we actually think.
Well, on my brain software series, I have to use a generic broad spectrum approach that's going to hit most people. So there is relaxation utilized as a doorway into trance, but it's not dragging it out endlessly, and I'm layering in embedded commands and metaphors and sound effects and everything to keep it moving. It is when people depend on this progressive relaxation or progressive muscle relaxation induction. I'm talking about, just feel your face relax. And they go on for 10 minutes about the muscles in your face and on and on. I've seen people do this for 45 minutes, and they've only got a light trance, and this is purely an indication of lack of confidence. There are way better ways of getting the person into it. I do not use progressive relaxation one-on-one ever. Now, if I did, it would only be if the person had expected that, if it had worked really well for them in the past, or they had requested that, but I can't imagine any of that being the case. So I stay away from it just because relaxation is a doorway into trance. It isn't trance. And a lot of hypnosis schools confuse the two. They think that being relaxed and being in trance are the same. I heard one hypnotist repeatedly say, and I'm going to put them back into the relaxed state. Well, relaxation alone will not give you hypnosis. You can lie in a hot tub and be extremely relaxed, but you won't be in a trance.
So essentially what you're saying is even if you had this super fast way of causing relaxation, you could warp time and do the progressive muscle relaxation part in let's say a minute, cover the whole body. Your eyelids are relaxed all the way down to the tips of your feet, tips of your toes, whatever. You still need to do something else, right? You still need to fixate their attention and...
Fixate the attention, internally or externally, yes. Without that, without wrapping their mind around the idea, as Elman said, you will not get trance. This goes back to Maxwell Maltz, a lot of it in the late 60s, early 70s, where he had a lot of great models for getting people to relax. But unfortunately, that has become the same as hypnosis in some people's eyes. And I find it to be largely a waste of time.
Otherwise, booze would help people go into hypnosis.
Well, that's a good one, Chris.
Very relaxed.
Last week, you're telling everyone to quit their jobs. Now you're telling them all become alcoholics.
You want to relax? Just have a few shots of tequila, and all
Pay
of a
no
sudden you're in
attention to the
hypnosis.
man behind the curtain.
Obviously not. Okay,
We'll certainly edit that out.
So, we'll just edit that out, right? Progressive muscle relaxation. I wanted to ask you now, when most people we're thinking of one particular organization, large organization that we won't name, but
right.
when people learn this induction, are they really just handed a script and told, okay, read this at each other?
All sorts of hypnosis schools hand people scripts. It's the way they operate because it is a lazy way of doing hypnosis. You don't have to interact with the person. You can just read this piece of paper at them. You don't have to teach your students well. You can just give them a stack of scripts. If they smoke, do this. If they're afraid of alligators, read this at them. And principles are so much better than frickin' scripts. It drives me raving mad, which is why we are taking the hypnosis world by storm with the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy.
Okay, so if one was convinced that they were just really comfortable with the idea of using relaxation-based beginning of an induction. I want to go deep into this because there are tons of people who are saying, well, I do, a progressive muscle relaxation 90% of the time. And what I discovered in reading some of the debates going on in the online forums is that what people are calling progressive muscle relaxation isn't necessarily the same. In fact, it's vastly different in many cases.
You must define your terminology.
Yes. So we're putting this label on it called PMR, progressive muscle relaxation. And the way I label it isn't necessarily the same way that somebody else might label it. And therefore, they're going to think my argument is totally wrong, and I'm going to think they're totally wrong. And we're not talking about the same thing at all.
I'm talking about this long, drawn-out, equating relaxing every single muscle, taking minutes and minutes and minutes to do this as the equivalent of hypnotic induction. It is not.
Right. Now, in contrast to that, if you use some pacing statements, you're lying there on that chair, and you're beginning to feel more and more comfortable. Well, pacing and leading, that's a leading statement, the second one. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with using a bit of relaxation and then dropping embedded suggestions, using metaphor.
No, and there's nothing wrong with relaxation. I mean, it's good for you.
It shouldn't be a script.
Right. It just shouldn't be a script, and it shouldn't be confused with hypnosis. It can be part of hypnosis, but it doesn't have to be at all.
That's right. So it's your inroad, and then you must shift to the mental, the occupation of their.
We have to distract or subvert the critical faculty and depotentiate the conscious mind.
Right.
Without that, it's not hypnosis.
What I should have been saying there is we need to relax their physical body as step one, and then as Elman would have put it, you need to relax their
mind as well.
Their mind has to relax as well. So
right.
So then you're shifting into all of the other Ericksonian language patterns or whatever else that you're doing.
Yeah, right. And there's nothing wrong, again, with relaxation. It's just this confusion that relaxation and hypnosis are the same thing. And if I can get someone relaxed, I'm now a great hypnotist. Not necessarily.
Right. So to end this whole debate, if all you do is relax even deeper, relax even deeper, you will no longer smoke. You are not a smoker anymore. Wide awake now. You've missed a big part of the therapy, right?
Right. It's juvenile beyond belief, which is unfortunately where it seems most is only 51%, most of the hypnotic world is stuck.
Yeah, that said, the people who are saying that they use this PMR, it sounds like when you...
You said you're finished with the topic. You just opened the lip again.
When you bring it up, when you ask them to explain what they do, it's not the same thing as we're just talking about. So anyway, I really just think people shouldn't use that terminology anymore. Let's talk about secondary gain. I got a really interesting email from one of our listeners. I'm not going to use her name. She specifically said it's okay for you to relay this story, but please don't use my name. She had asked what product of Mike's would help me overcome my seemingly unconscious belief that I shouldn't have money. She wants more money, and she believes that after having tried everything, that somehow there's something stopping her from having more money.
Well, two things come to mind right away, Chris. Can you imagine what they would be?
Well, no, but before we talk about...
Yes, go ahead, by all means. Give me a before.
I'll finish the story. So,
I thought you were done, sorry.
No, I told her, look, peak performance is probably the most suitable one. I wanted to answer your question. And you don't have a product that teaches people how to make more money, but peak performance gets you into peak states, and that's a great product to use for generally the things that you want to get better at in life.
Yeah.
What I also said to her, though, is, as an example, let me just refer to my notes here. I said to her, look, regarding the issues that you're looking to solve, first you need to ask yourself an important question. You need to be totally honest. What is not having this resource, which in your case is money, helping you to avoid or helping you to accomplish in life? So, for example, and I shifted it away from money, I said, not having good health can give someone in a bad relationship a way to hang on to a spouse. And knowing that as long as there are health issues, the spouse is going to feel too guilty to leave. Now, I purposefully gave her this non-money example to get the point across.
Right.
Now, this was the interesting part. She fired back a response saying, wow, thank you for saying that, because it's interesting that my relationship is not great, and one of the reasons, the biggest reason that I haven't left it is because I don't have enough money. And so she started realizing, there's actually something going on here where maybe I don't really want to leave it as badly as I think I do, or there's some part of me that doesn't want to leave, and therefore if I don't have money, I can't leave.
That's interesting, Chris, because we're right back to the heart of when Chris and I say, how does that belief serve you?
Exactly.
And belief that, I need more money, or I can't get more, or I can't leave this relationship, or I can't stay in this relationship, whatever it is. What does that belief do for you? What does it prevent you from doing? Those are the questions.
So what were you going to say before I finished telling the story?
I can't remember, some stupid comment.
Well, something about, people who have an unconscious limitation to getting money or getting something that's.
Oh
gonna
no,
help
I was
them.
only talking about the products, and the peak performance came to mind, and also the navigator system to negotiate around it.
Yeah. Or take the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. Learn about hypnosis. You'll love it. All right, so
Our
we
time's
have
going really quickly
we have a
here.
few. This is flying by, this podcast, but this is a good one. I mean, it's fun. Let's end. We have a closing metaphor. We have an empowering question. Anything else we want to touch on? I don't think so.
No. I think...
All right, let's do it. Closing.
What about the empowering
question? Let's do that first.
Okay. Listen carefully. Here's your empowering question for today. Let your unconscious mind dwell on this and then answer it and apply it. What neglected talent or skill have you been wasting? Let me say that again. What neglected talent or skill have you been wasting, and how are you going to use it to improve the lives of others? What neglected talent or skill have you been wasting, and how are you going to use it to improve the lives of others?
Awesome question. I can think of some good answers that apply to me. All right, and let's hear your closing metaphor.
When I was a kid, I went to Earl Beatty Public School when we came to Canada from England. And I was there initially in kindergarten and stayed there grade 1, 2, 3, skipped grade 4 into grade 5, was there for the beginning part of grade 6. And my best friend at the school was Norm Yates, who I met because he pushed my head into a tree in a street fight when we were little kids. And I told my parents, and they had words with his parents, and it was all sorted out. And we went to Cubs together, the 133rd Cub Scout Pack, Monarch Park, and hung out with all these great kids like Ken Hunter, and went on trips, including camping trips, and just had a general blast, including the game we would play in the schoolyard back then. We'd get two huge rival gangs and attack each other. Now, we were little kids. There'd be 50 or 60 kids in each gang. There were two gangs. There was the Blue Raiders, which was Norm Yates' gang, which I belonged to. And the bad kids were in the Black Trotters, supposedly knights in armor on horseback, all black horses. Ian Somerville, our friend, was in the Black Trotters. I could never understand why such a nice kid was in such an idiotic gang. And we'd stand on different parts of the schoolyard, and the two groups of 50 or 60 kids would charge each other, frantically yelling. And then once we ran into each other, we'd fight with invisible swords, and each claiming we'd wounded or destroyed the other one. It was great fun at the time. And you can learn, really learn so many things from your youth and apply all of these things in your adulthood in ways that will change your life and help you continue to learn and get better. And the gangs would split up and run to the other sides of the schoolyard, and it would all happen again. And I'd see old Ian Somerville across the schoolyard thinking, why is he with those black trotters on those black horses when he could be a Blue Raider with us? I never really understood it, but Cub Camp was a blast, and all through school hanging out with Norm Yates, I thought back to that day he pushed my head into the tree and how the friendship all started at that time. Joining the 133rd Cub Pack, and how we moved into that area. And I went to Earl Beatty Public School in the first place, right back to kindergarten, where it all began.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and listening to Brain Software with Dr. Mike Mandel. I'm Chris Thompson. This has been session number 37. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to head over to iTunes and leave a rating for the show. Write a review. We want to get more people writing reviews for the Brain Software podcast. So head on over to iTunes and do that. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about hypnosis and communication and a lot more than just hypnosis, you want to check out the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. And you can check that out by visiting MikeMandelHypnosis.com/academy. We'll talk to you again on the next podcast.
It was the most wonderful thing, we were all sitting at Blades Club one evening, and we were just discussing a lot of different things. Henry Squatter came in. I was there with Guy Billingham and Ray Houston, and of course Bryce Morgan was there. But you know who wasn't there was Fitzwadsworth Smythe. And Squatter noticed right away. He said, wait, where's old Colonel Fitzwadsworth Smythe? I said, he's rather ill. He went, ill? You know, Squatter was the medic for the platoon. He was quite interested in this. He said, well, what's wrong with him? I said, he's got a bad pain in his back. He said, oh, muscle. I said, no, they've ruled that out. He said, oh, it's got to be his kidneys then. I said, yes, they think it is. He said, well, is he able to pass water? I said, yes, he's passing quite a lot of it, really. The problem is it's all red. Squatter said, well, they've got to do something. That's an emergency. I said, yes, well, the problem is, Squatter, he needs this renegade procedure the Yanks are doing where they actually cut the kidney out and put another one in from someone else. He said, oh, that's frightening sort of Frankenstein thing. I said, yeah, it is. But it's what he needs, the poor old chap. But we're looking for somebody who's got AB negative blood. And Squatter said, wait, I've got AB negative. Of course, we knew this all along, setting him up for the joke. He said, well, I've got that. He said, well, would you be willing to give him one of your kidneys? He said, well, he's my commandant. Of course I would. So we arranged the whole thing. And we got the surgeon to come in, and Squatter was in one bed, and Fitzwadsworth Smythe was in the other. And the surgeon came in with the mask on and the helpers, and they gave them both the ether bags on their faces, and they blacked out. And sometime later, the Squatter wakes up with a horrendous headache, looks across, and there's Fitzwadsworth Smythe, unconscious in the other bed, or dead perhaps. And the surgeon holds up a jar of formaldehyde, and in it is a kidney. And Squatter says, what is that? Is that his ailing kidney you've taken out? And the surgeon pulled his mask off. It was Bryce Morgan. He said, no, this is your kidney. And the funny thing was, he'd actually cut his kidney out. The funniest damn thing. I just love that, man. He was the funniest chap. Squatter was in hospital for nearly 8 months.
You come up with this stuff.